conquer school culture, first you have to analyze what the school culture is, and then if there's anything that you need to improve it based on how things are. But one key thing that I believe we have to do is create that sense of ownership, where everyone feels they're part of the same thing. Like, well, all voices are heard, and everybody feels like they are part of that, because when you're part of something, then you take it as yours, and then you start acting like that. And I'm talking about students, staff, and parents. So like in our particular case, I don't know if you remember, we didn't have like a motto, and now there's this is STEM, this is our school. It's very strategic, the whole hour, because that's what we want to make sure the kids and the staff understand, that it's not just me, the one doing this. It's this is our place. This is what we do. And when you think about it, that is in every piece of thing that we put out there, in our newsletters. That's how we end up every presentation with the kids. Even the kids' morning announcements. That's what they themselves say. So that's part of creating us all being on the same boat. And of course, when it comes to teachers, part of the thing is making sure that they understand that their voices are heard, and what they want to do, as long as it falls within the school's mission and vision, we can go ahead and do it. You realize I hardly ever say no to a initiative, as long as there's teacher ownership, because when you do it, there's more investment than when I ask you, let's do this, or let's just do that.
Totally agree.
And of course, making sure that parents also feel like their voices are heard when they, when a parent comes and has a complaint about something, trying to fix it within 24 to 48 hours or whatever they read. Because if I let it go, then they feel like we're not listening to them. Their issues are not our issues, and it always has to do with our issues. So I think that the biggest thing that we can do to have that sense of strengthening the school culture is creating that sense of ownership on every stakeholder: parents, students, and staff.
I love it. And I can tell you from my perspective that we started feeling it from the very first day, especially this school year, when you created those committees, and you said, okay, you have to join one of them. Let me know which one you would be contributing the most, if you're more comfortable with. That for us was like, okay, he wants to hear from us. He trusts us. Yeah, I have to give this trust back. That's right. That's the feeling I had.
Right.
And more than, very rapidly I sign up for this committee, for that committee, and try to do my best to help. And everybody I was talking to Mr. Ortiz, Mr. Salinas, and everybody has the same feeling. Oh, he wants to actually hear from us, and what we say, our input, everything that we have to say. We feel that from that first meeting that we had here.
And that's good. And see, and now we're taking one step further. You know how we have the clubs, right? And so one thing with the clubs, it was more what we thought the kids wanted. So part of the things was not having a lot of student input. Now we're gonna have a lot more of their input, especially when we move on. I mean, what we are doing now, we're gonna keep on doing it, just because they are now comfortable with that club. But for next school year, it'll be more of their choices, and it has to be way in advance so that we can be able to say, hey, I can sponsor that, I can sponsor that one, because it all depends what they want to do. We have to make sure that it's not just a club for the sake of a club. That we gotta be able to do something. But we're gonna have a lot more student input when it comes to stuff like that.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you so much. Well, question number 2. What resource do you wish you could provide to all of the classrooms to support their teaching and learning?
I mean, I'm very pleased with what we are doing when it comes to like your class, like STEM class, and Salinas's class, and that would be something that I would want, not just for everyone at the school, but all schools to have that practicality, that hands-on piece that is truly missing. Like for instance, when you work, in all the projects that you've done, you can tell how those kids are putting in practice all the theory, all the concepts that they work in science and any of the classes, in math and ELA, all of that, they put it into practice. I remember when you were doing the Bernoulli effect, proving that with the kids. And it's something that they've read, something they've heard, but they were actually doing it. The other time that you were doing the they were creating which shape would hold the most books, and it would be like the triangle or the circle. It's science that is proven based on hands-on, and that's how when true learning happens. And of course, the same thing is with Salinas. You can tell the kids, oh, but you can make music and then make a robot dance, but then they actually are creating the music that can have the robot dance. So that part of the hands-on, it would be really great that everybody had a chance to do. At our school, we're blessed because we have that opportunity, but I don't know if other schools have that kind of chance. And that was very strategic because remember, before they were like, okay, we're gonna do keyboarding or something like that. They were like the electives, and then we had band. But as a STEM school, yes, that's great, but we should be doing more that had to do with the science and the engineering. And I think that's something that we've done. The collaborative project that have happened before. When you do the microgravity project, that the whole school was part of it.
Correct.
And then not just in your class, they were doing the practical part, but then they were refining the format in ELA, and they were working out the math in math, that kind of thing. Yeah. All of that is something that I wish we could continue to do more often, and all schools had a chance to do. So that's one thing that I would love for all schools to have.
So do you think that more than in terms of materials and the equipment, this kind of resource, maybe the human resource is the most important?
Right. Because when you think about it, in your class, we really don't have a lot of resources. We make things with cardboard, styrofoam, shipping material. But it's the ingenuity that goes behind that. It's the resource, and it's also the willingness on staff. That's the good thing about that, people that really would want to do, but it all goes back to that first question, that sense of ownership. If you don't believe in the project, none of that is going to happen. But you have to believe in the project, because you could just simply say, hey, this is too much work, I'm not going to do it. But yet again, you're doing, like for instance, now what you're doing with the rocket, you didn't have to do that, but you believe in the project. You believe that's something that the kids would benefit from, and you're doing it. It all goes back to that. Like Miss Celis, when she was doing, she didn't have any other help from people doing the spelling bee, but she believed in it and she did it. Miss Smith with the Black History program. It has to do with you believing in what you can do, what's gonna be able for the kids, because then you invest time, sometimes money on your own, but then the results are set. So you're right. We can provide certain resources, but the human capital is the most important one. It all depends on how you reach out to that human capital, how you sell the idea of like, hey, this is gonna benefit not just your kids but everybody's kids.
Right.
And then that's something that I wish every school had that possibility right there.
Can talk to the district to see if we can
I know,
this
right?
kind of training for everybody.
I know.
All right, let's move on to question number 3. If you had to give a new principal advice, talk about me now, in the future. New principal advice about conflict management in a school community, what advice would you give?
First, to understand that conflict is inevitable. As a principal, you are going to be finding yourself managing is the wrong word. For lack of a better word, dealing with personalities. And I'm talking about kids, I'm talking about teachers, I'm talking about parents. Know in your heart, know that you are not going to be able to please everyone, because you cannot just make a decision that is going to make the teachers happy, and that's going to upset the kids, and in consequence, it's going to upset parents. So you have to be able to make a decision that is going to try to keep everybody at least confident that was the best decision that you could make. So conflict is inevitable. Now, knowing that, you can do things to make sure that when you do have to deal with conflict, people are going to trust your judgment. And that goes with building relationships. You have to be able to be seen as a trustworthy person. You cannot just say, hey, I'm gonna say this and then not do it, because the kids are not going to believe you, teachers are not going to believe you, and the parents are going to believe you. If they don't believe you, they don't have your trust, you cannot fix any conflict. We have one thing here. I don't when a kid comes to me and complains about a teacher, then of course you cannot dismiss the kid and say, hey, I'm gonna believe 100% the kid, because it's not gonna happen. So you have to listen to the kid, because that's what they want. They want to be heard. So you listen to the kid. But then you also have to talk to the teacher and listen to their position. And then if you need to, you bring them both, and then try to bridge that bridge between them two. Same story with the parents. You have to listen to the parents, but you also have to be able to let them know why the teacher acted in the way they acted with the information that they had. But again, it also goes back to building that trust, building that relationship. That's key. If you don't have that, it's going to really impact how you deal with conflict. The other thing is knowing that whatever decision you made or whatever thing you're trying to mediate has to have that sense of fairness. Because it cannot be one thing that happens every time with a kid. When a kid gets into an altercation with another kid, the parent wants to know what's happened to the other kid, and then you have to go and say, hey, this is about your child, but rest assured the other kid is also going to be disciplined in the matter that is it's consequent to the action, because you cannot discuss with a parent what you are going to do with another kid. You cannot use names, even though they're going to know about the name when they leave your office. But it has to be with that sense of fairness. If a kid gets into a fight, then they're going to say, okay, so the one gets suspended. You cannot divulge that information, but you have to assure the parent that discipline measures are going to be for both kids. So that sense of fairness, because if they feel like, oh, this is an injustice, then they're going to go and then go over and call somebody and then all that kind of stuff. So it all goes back to having that trust, making sure the parent feels heard, and the kid feels heard, and the teacher feels heard also, because you also have sometimes conflict within teachers, or sometimes maybe something that a teacher did that you have to go and talk to them. Hey, we have an issue, and so we have to fix it. But it also has to always with the sense that you are really you're listening to the person, and at the same time you're trying to not make an issue that could be small,
unfair decision,
right, larger than what it is. It all goes back to making sure the person feels heard. I think that's key. But understand, conflict, it's part of what we do. It's inevitable. It's always inevitable, because we're dealing with people, and personalities clash, and then I'm not happy every day, therefore the kids are not happy every day, and then but that's the other thing. You'll realize that as a principal, your demeanor, the way you present yourself, affects everyone in the school. When you're happy, if they perceive you happy, that can be seen, and people feel happy. It resonates with everybody. You can have a bad day. We always gonna have a day, but when you have to leave that outside and try to make yourself the best, because realize that a lot of the school depends on what you do, and the decisions that you make, and the things that you say. You have to be the fair one. You can have people that are gonna be the unfair, but you always have to be the fair one. It's hard. It's hard. Sometimes it's like walking on eggshells, but it can be easier as long as you are certain that you're making the right decisions with the right information.
It's not surprising what you're saying, and I love that you brought this point up. I just read a book about Stephen Covey talking about the speed of trust.
Yeah, I have it.
You have it here.
It's over there.
Yeah, I can see it. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it talks about exactly first that you can trust. First of all, trust is not about what you think; it's about what people's perception. Right. So does it fit exactly what you're saying? That you have to be fair as much as possible. You have to leave your personal life on that door, in the front door, and come with the best attitude, because it resonates with everybody else in the building. And they perceive every single feeling that you have. It's transmitted somehow,
right,
like a virus.
Right.
And I like the part that you said that somebody you can trust the person in terms of their capabilities, the skills they have, or the results they deliver. But if you can't trust the intent, the character of the person, one of the cores of trust that he says in the book, and that's the part that parents and staff and kids, if they can't trust on your intentions, if they can't trust your integrity, if they can't trust that you'll be fair with your decisions, you can be the best results
Right.
teacher or principal ever. But,
And it
you
all
lose
goes
them.
back to that. You have to be a man of your word. If you say, I'm going to do this, and you don't do it, then the kids are going to pick up on that and say, hey, I can get away with whatever I want.
Exactly.
The teachers are going to be able, hey, he's not going to be checking this, he's going to be checking that. And the parents are going to say, he's not going to call me because he said he was going to do this 2 weeks ago and he hasn't done it. So that's how you build the trust. Be a man of your word. If you say, I'm going to do this, you have to go ahead and do it regardless of how it makes you feel. Because otherwise you won't be able to have the parents' trust. And remember, on a public school, and I'm sure charters and private schools are the same, bad reviews can really, really, really undermine your school culture. And bad reviews come from an upset parent for something that you did, said, or didn't do.
Oh, bad reviews on internet.
Yes,
Online bad
yes,
reviews.
yes. That's why you really have to be.
Sometimes social media.
That's what I'm talking about. Right now, our review is social media,
Okay.
and you have to able to. That's why you need to make sure that the perception people have of your school is a positive one. They're gonna be upset about something, but you have to make sure that you are trying to do whatever you can to make sure to minimize the damages of anything that could come for situations that you cannot control, and try to control everything. One of my favorite moments of the day is the morning when I'm taking bags. Not because I'm really trying to find anything. It's just because that gives me that moment to connect with the kids and tease them, tell them because what you say can make the rest of their day. They try to tell them something to make them happy, lower the defenses, and whenever they come to a classroom, they feel like, okay, somebody heard me. That's why I call them by their name, or like tease them here and there, and they like that. Make up things, bond with the kids, and they'll know they can trust you because you're bonding with them.
Right.
Like the door, you notice, it's always open. The issue that I have now, the kids just want to come and knock. Now I have to actually, hey, remember, I may be having a conversation with somebody.
Right.
So that kind of thing. That's how you build the trust, making sure that they can come to you for whatever reason. Sometimes you'll be amazed of what the kids can tell you. And they open up that quick, and because they believe they can trust.
And I think I told you this already, not because we were recording this conversation, but this is I believe your strongest I would say the strongest point, or the best thing you can bring us professionally is your capacity to build relationships.
Thank you.
I really, because that's kind of a reference for me.
Thank
honestly.
you.
Last question. Which one, federal, state, or district mandate works best to support teaching and learning?
I'm gonna go with one that we implemented this school year. Because there are several mandates, but because right now we're invested in this modern teaching, and part of the modern teaching is establishing clear protocols for everything, the standard operating procedures, the SOPs. I think that's one of the ones that is creating a lot of good things in the classroom, because you don't have to repeat yourself. You don't have to be saying, hey, this is how we do things. That's the expectation, and it's printed, it's there. We have the expectation of how you work. Think about it. Remember, this year we switched, completely overhauled, completely how we did things from last year to this year. And because we had the protocols already set in place, it was flawless. Even from day one, having those almost 300 kids moving from downstairs to upstairs, there was no hiccups. There was no pushing shop, nothing. Because we already knew what we wanted to do. Teachers transmitted that to students and all of that. So having those clear procedures, so creating those standard operating procedures or SOPs, I think is what was one of the biggest things that at least the district empowered us to do, and I think we took it. There's some more that we should need to be doing. There are other things that we have to tweak. Not everything is perfect, but having those, it's been good, because it's created a lot of good things. For instance, that new schedule for us as a school. I don't know if you noticed it. It's so different from last year. It's better. The kind of behavior that we had last year compared to what we have now, to the point that sometimes I feel that there are moments where we are too relaxed when it comes. We're trusting too much on the kids. But because of that, because we know that it's working and it's working for them. But we also have to make sure that it's always kids and they can change their demeanor like that. But yeah, so that district mandate with having standard operating procedures for almost everything has been very good and rewarding for us.
And it makes sense because every time you have a mandate from the district, you think about your community.
Right.
So you give what's the best for your students, not necessarily like for the state or for even worse for when it's federal. They don't have any idea what's the true necessity of your people, your students, your families that you're dealing with.
Right. When it comes to mandates, it all depends on what it is. If it's curriculum, it's a state thing that we have to implement. And you just have to go with it because, like when they change the standards for how they do science, what they're going to do for this science test, we have to go by it. We don't have a lot of say in it. That's something that they do. If it's a federal thing that they have to say, like the federal government, no, actually it was North Carolina, that said that we needed to have a neutral bathroom. So that's why we have some students that have to use the staff bathroom because that's the only neutral that we have. See what I mean? So there are some things that we don't have a lot of say in, we just have to implement. But this one was something that our district saw like this is something what we need to do and really is going to take care of pretty much everything. Because you don't have to be repeating things. It's going to be standard. It's going to be something that kids know this is how we do things in STEM, and that's something that they're going to expect. It's going to become part of the culture of the school. And eventually you'll see how sometimes the newer kids are the ones that usually kind of tend to not do what we want them to do because they haven't been brought into the culture of the school. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So 8th graders usually are the ones that are the best because they've been here with 6 and 7. Mm-hmm. 6th graders, they are the ones trying to test things because they don't know how we do things. But it also goes back to those procedures and having those protocols in place.
Well, anyway, it was a great conversation, sir. I learned a lot from your point of view, everything that, I learned from you all these 3 years. And thank you for being able and for your time once again.
No problem. You're welcome, Salim.